Need at least half participating.
Good evening, everybody. We're here at Run Collective this evening. We've got a wonderful talk arranged with Dr. Scott Tink, who is the new orthopedic surgeon at Busamed Hillcrest Hospital. We've got a full house. After Dr. Scott Tink, we've got CW physios who are going to do some dynamic stretching with the crowd, take them outside, do a few stretches, and then everybody's going to come back in and we're going to finish off the evening. So we are live on YouTube, and you've got the link on Facebook if you're looking for it. And yeah, we'll see how the evening goes.
Are you happy with this box? I've got another one of those.
I'm just going to end it. He's going to go cruising around.
I'm an ex-strander.
Super, thanks.
We're ready to go. Try and get everybody's attention. There you go.
Can I have everyone's attention, please? If you've got a seat, please take one or find one. First of all, I'd just like to say a very big thank you to everybody that's here this evening. We never know with these sort of events. You put it out there and you get a few people that say they're coming, but it's great to see a full house. And even though the weather's not great outside, I think it's a nice environment in here. And I first would like to say a big thank you to Tristan and Hein for hosting us here at Run Collective. Obviously, they'd be happy if you bought a pair of shoes before you left. But yeah, thanks very much, guys. And we're also very pleased to have Run Collective at our UHTM event this year. So please look out for them and make sure you support them as much as you possibly can. Secondly, I'd like to thank Busamed for talking to us. They're very, very much behind what we're doing in terms of UHTM and supporting our local conservancies. So Busamed have introduced us to a very well-known and superbly professional doctor that's recently joined them from Joburg.
Thank you.
Dr. Scott Tink, who's their new orthopedic surgeon. So we're going to start the proceedings. Dr. Tink will give us a rundown on joint management, which we all suffer from, I think, as we get a bit older, and maybe not older.
Or lack of management.
Yes, exactly. And then following that, we're going to have Alex from CW Physios, going to talk a little bit about stretching, dynamic stretching, and we are going to ask you to all come outside for a little demonstration if the rain holds off. So please do that, and then all come back inside. We've got some really good giveaways and some hampers and prizes and whatever for everybody. So enjoy the evening. Scott?
Hey, thanks for the warm invitation. Thank you everyone for coming out. As a recent participant in the Hillcrest community, I have been warned that when the rain comes out, people disappear. And I can see that's not the case this evening, so well done, thank you for coming through. I was initially given a brief to chat about joint management, and I was given some sort of instruction to produce a slightly formal presentation. So, I chatted to Craig during the week, and we realized that's actually not going to be the case, and we're going to bring it down to a really nice, just open chat. If you guys hear a comment that's being made, you're like, well, hang on a minute, it doesn't make sense, or I've heard otherwise, or you just have a burning question, please fire away. There's nothing formal here. I do apologize. I intended on coming more formally dressed, but I was fresh out of theatre, so I'm sorry about that. Right. Just a little bit about me. My name is Scott. Thank you for the introduction as Dr. Tink. When we're in theatre and in the formalities of theatre and the hospital and so forth, sure. Tonight I'm Scott, please, by all means. I am a runner. For my sins, I've got some mates and we do some of the local runs around this area, but I'm always keen to learn some more. Some great exciting things coming up. But essentially, I have done runs that I think a lot of you guys have done. I take an approach that a lot of us have taken, and I've made the mistakes that I think a lot of us have mistakes that we've all made. The reality is that we should learn from our mistakes, and they're not detrimental. They don't end our running careers for the most part. Let's try and answer a few questions that I get asked quite often, and ultimately that builds towards a greater question: is running good for you? Or should I stop running? Am I doing worse damage to my knees or my back or so on and so forth? So, don't take my word for it. We're going to throw into a little bit of data and some publications. So I've taken the topic in slight adjustment. Apologies for that, Craig. But these are a series of questions that I often get asked. And like I say, let's bring some evidence to it, and I'll hopefully give you an answer. Right. So, first thing is definitions. Often the people will say, well, what is running too far? What is running too little? What is recreational running? There's so much variation in it, but long distance running varies obviously track, cross country, and to the trails, which we majoritarily are doing here. Trails divided up anything from 5 kilometers onwards up to the 160k mark in a single stage event, but certainly the multi-stage, multi-day events. There's a specific research group that coined this term, the UER, ultra endurance distance, and that's anything exceeding a marathon, and times exceeding 6 hours, and anything that's multi-stage or multi-day. Anything under that, let's just briefly divide it. Guys that are under that and guys that are over that, for now. Okay, so you can sort of look at those numbers and see, well, where do you generally fit in? You might push it 1 year and be above that, or for a general, you might be below that, but just keep those numbers in mind. Just a show of hands, who's above that, on average? Okay, we've got some serious runners here. Huh? As a general rule, who's below that? I'm certainly below that. Nothing to be ashamed of. Right. Okay. Out of my own way. There's many texts, many books out there, many bits of publications that will tell us the multitude of benefits that go our way. But some of probably the top 20 ones I'm going to just really briefly touch on. Cardiovascular stuff, there's no doubt about it, improved. And the specific thing that it touches on is your ability for your heart to have endurance, recovery, reduction in your lipoproteins and all the fats that flow through your bloodstream. Reduce of the long-term things that ultimately kill you. Okay, so for your heart, running is good. Weight management goes without saying, being active and outdoors and so on, and obviously using your energies not behind the couch or behind the TV, but rather on your feet running. Mental wellness, there's multiple studies that show and support that. Depression risks, the anxiety profile, the bipolar mood disorders. Some interesting articles came out how purely introducing running to that program had a significant drop in patients who suffered from low personality disorders, some of the sort of more socially awkward, what's the polite term is, body dysmorphic sort of people, people who've had bad stigma with traumatic events, getting back into running, socializing, mental well-being, all significantly improved through that. Increased endurance and stamina, that goes without saying. Some of the more exciting ones though. Metabolism increased, of course. Endocrine stuff, so a significant reduction in your metabolic syndrome and type 2 diabetes. The amount of refined carbohydrates that we have in our diets these days, I mean, no one can argue the pizzas we eat, the beers we drink, the bread rolls we eat, the croissants we eat. There's lots of refined carbohydrates in there. That's pushing us quite strongly into metabolic syndrome. There's a huge genetic component to that, but undeniably reduces that risk. Improved bone health, it's a debatable one. There was a really big study done in 2022 with a lot of smaller studies. These guys stated that in the human studies it was difficult to truly prove it, but if you are a rat, which you're not, but if you are a rat, there's a number of great studies showing how rats benefit. So let's hope it extrapolates to us. Okay, lung capacity, which you're using your lungs, you're expanding and breathing the whole time. The quality of the ability to extract oxygen and to offload carbon dioxide, overall lung function improves significantly. Obviously the mental side of being able to set goals and attain your goals, and the euphoric satisfaction of achieving your goals, undeniable. Of course, social connections, you're meeting up with your buddies, you're deliberately getting out there, you're becoming more of a social creature. Interesting, quite a bit of studies done on circadian rhythm improvement. The sonnet sleep trial was quite a big one, and the difference, when they say statistically significant difference, it can usually be this little marginal amount. The patients who had a significant running background had massively improved circadian rhythm and recovery in their sleep patterns versus non-runners. So you sleep better by running. Boosted immune function, studies supporting that. Enhanced mental clarity, again, a really big study group worked from 2016 up to about 2019 on a number of studies working on cognitive function and specifically subclinical Alzheimer's disease. Some elements that cross over to Parkinson's disease, but a lot of the running community had that significant lesser amount of cognitive decline versus non-runners. So, good for your brain. The physical side of things, improved balance and coordination, stronger musculature, of course, increased resting metabolic rate. So you're actually doing continued weight control even whilst not running. You have better, ultimately, metabolic functions. Okay, I'm just quickly spinning through this. We can expand on any of these topics if you guys are interested, but just quickly touching on them for now. This one was really exciting, increased lifespan. So those folks who spend time on their deathbed and they've said, I wish I did more of this or wish I did more of that. Number one, your deathbed is technically speaking longer away. That's good news. Between 3 and 7 years, longer lifespan in runners. That is not my study. That's a study that's really awesome. And ultimately, longer lifespan, but longer quality of life for your lifespan. Interestingly though, as little as 5 to 10 minutes per day at slower rates of 6 to 7 miles per hour, and patients already started to see an improvement in all forms of health benefits from running. So the next time you say, I've just got no time to run, 10 minutes, 5-10 minutes, I'm sure you can find that to spare. As mentioned, I touched on the neurological side of things. Okay, so time for reflection, of course, again, networking with people and friends, running in a combined group of like-minded people, enjoying time together, the fresh air of the morning, the late afternoon run, whatever's your preference. Adaptability and resilience, again, goes back to that setting of goals and achieving your goals and so forth. But the big question, of course, comes to an orthopedic perspective. Joint care. Am I or am I not hurting my joints? Am I speeding my knees up to that knee replacement or not? You can see a smile or two coming out of me. Okay, so before I answer that question, cardiomyopathy. Now, that group in the beginning, the ultra high runners, the guys regularly running more than marathons, the guys that are doing more than 40 to 50 kilometers per week training, the guys running distances, I say guys, I'm using that as a gender neutral description, okay? Those people put themselves at higher risk. Now, I'm not saying don't be one of those people. I'm saying be one of those people with responsible running approach. When I say that, is that you don't be a confident 21K runner today and then start a 56 tomorrow or start going for a 90 in 3 weeks time. You build up to it. Now, patients who do get there and who progressively build up there and who responsibly get to their running fitness and peaks do not suffer the couple of things we're going to touch on now. Anything you see in red is not good for you. And you can get to a state of ultra endurance runner without hurting your heart by just progressively getting up there. However, the facts and the data show us that lifetime long endurance runners. So this is now 25 years of doing 2 to 3 marathons per year for a 25-year running career. All those guys who regularly run in that ultra high group, they have a 12% more increase in myofibrosis. That's like micro scarring of the heart musculature. Now, that does not mean your heart will stop. It doesn't mean that you're necessarily going to die from that. However, it does unfortunately predispose you to one or two things that not every one of those runners get. But unfortunately, they do potentially suffer from cardiac strain, increased elevation of troponins. Troponins are an enzyme from the heart muscle that says, I'm under duress. I'm working a bit harder than I should be. And it's myocardial fibrosis then ultimately makes the thickening of the heart wall, so it doesn't have nice pliability to it. It has a little bit more rigidity to it. So the heart ultimately has to work a little bit harder to pump under ordinary relaxing state. It works a bit harder than it would have ordinarily. Very importantly, you have the ability to get arrhythmias. Now, we recap. You're talking about a subset of people that are running at extremes. The people who are signing up for the 300-kilometer runs, the people that are signing and regularly doing those massive distances. Be careful for your heart. Get there slowly. Don't just rush into a massive event. Excuse me. So, again, for those serious runners, I saw some hands going up there. Just responsibly get there. But I think you guys know that already. You're not jumping from 21s to 90s. Okay. So that's what the data says. Let's put it like that. Okay. Aortic stiffness along a similar line with this sort of overall stiffening. Aorta becomes slightly more increased in its rigidity and stiffness in long, ultra long distance runners compared to recreational runners and so forth. However, newsflash, as we get older, we get more calcifications in our arteries anyway. It's going to get stiffer anyway, so don't stress too much. That's the easy take home then. Yeah. All right. Accelerated coronary atherosclerosis. You guys have heard about atherosclerosis before, the hardening of the vessels and so forth. There is some evidence to show that in these ultra long distance runners, there is this increased plaque deposits in this extremely high risk group that's pushing themselves beyond and beyond and beyond. But just like this one, as you get older, you get it anyway, so don't worry. Okay. Cardiomegaly, left ventricular hypertrophy. So that's the big chamber of the heart that pumps blood out from the heart and around everywhere. Whether you like it or not, if you exercise, that's going to happen anyway. And in fact, if you're a long distance swimmer, you're going to get more of that than a long distance runner. So don't worry about it. Okay, what else here? Okay, this is probably a bit more interesting because can I have a quick show of hands? Who has run a race and taken anti-inflammatories in the week up to the race or on the day of? Be honest, good, yeah. So this is not an uncommon scenario. You're about to run a big long distance event, you've got this sore knee or this sore back or this sore whatever, and you grab an anti-inflammatory and you forget what it's doing to your kidneys. Now, whether you take the anti-inflammatory or not, repeated episodes of excessive dehydration compounded by a bit of muscle breakdown for like your 56K distances and onwards, something called rhabdomyolysis, and you're breaking down that muscle. Ultimately, that's getting processed by your kidneys. You're probably going to be taking on some goop and stuff like that, with probably an imbalance of water with that. And again, adding a little bit more of an injury to the kidneys. Do that for 25 years and run regular marathons, eventually it's going to have a bit of an effect. That is probably my most greatest concern, is that. So, run responsibly. Make sure you hydrate properly. Make sure you excuse me, are not abusing your kidneys by taking unnecessary medication. Once you finish the run, hydrate and then take your medication. Or have your painkiller 2 or 3 nights or days before your run so that you're not in overt pain. Don't ignore a long-standing injury that you just run through all the time. Take care of yourself. Okay. Right, respiratory effects. Interesting on this one, and it ties into another one that's coming. Sorry, there's more. If you get cold exposure, generally speaking not in our country, but some of the northern European countries, some of the really cold climates, I've seen some of our runners run with the morning masks and so forth, and how the humidity of your breath and the coldness of the air gets a bit warmed up from that, but repeated cold air being inhaled and exhaled out of your lungs the whole time actually, again, over a 25-year running career, has a bit of impact on the lungs. Musculoskeletal wise, high mileage with poor nutrition, and that's probably the greater take-home message. Our bodies are really quite amazing at fixing ourselves, but you've got to supply the building blocks to repair yourself. So high mileage shouldn't scare you, but nutrition, that's what we can work on. We can optimize our nutrition as best we can. And it's,
sorry,
yes.
I'd like to just ask before you go on about the
Yep.
respiratory effects. You said over 25 years.
Yes.
If you're training for an event, and let's say you've got a cold month and it's cold every morning, will that have an effect on your respiratory tract and cause issues? Or
Highly unlikely, but let's individualize the patient. So someone who's got no background respiratory problems, they're absolutely fine, they're really, really unlikely to have, like a cold snap here or there, you're going to be absolutely fine. Someone who's got asthma, who is, believe it or not, such people exist, who smoke and have asthma, or unfortunately have secondary smoke exposure to family members at home or something like that, you've got an underlying respiratory sensitivity. Again, one cold event here, like 3-4 cold events a year, you're going to be fine. But repeated cold exposure, or someone who's fanatical about running at 4 every morning, that's where you're going to start having an added effect, John. I think so. I was told, my little daughter was putting on her school uniform recently, getting very excited about her new school, and a raincoat was on offer. To which I said to the lady helping us, is it necessary in this part of the world? Obviously, it's necessary. To which I then said, and then temperatures, how does it get cold here? What story? And with great enthusiasm, she looked at me and said, it gets down to 10 degrees. I'm like, really? Okay. So 10 degrees with a bit of rain, that's not going to be no damage at all. Certainly approaching zero and sub-zero, you should be a bit wiser. Cover up. It doesn't have to be the thickest material. To just limit some of your breath, not to overload you with carbon dioxide like those altitude trainers, but some sort of facial warming thing is important. I didn't search too hard for it, but my ears get hell of a sore if I run in a cold environment. I'm sure a lot of us do. I'm sure we can find some data to say that it has a potential, but don't suffer. Just warm your ears up. Right, where are we? Immune system. So again, this is someone who's really pushing the boundaries to their own personal capacity. So if you're a recreational runner, really stepping it up, or if you're an established long distance runner and you're really stepping it up, or you're running when you just recovered from an illness or an injury and you might not be at your peak, be careful. If you run too hard and you push too hard, you're going to make yourself even sick, and you're prone to then injury and prone to, your immune system's going to get shot, and you are going to be the person who gets the flu. Who here has really peaked their training and you've flown on a plane down to Cape Town for the Cape Town 2 Oceans and you got flu on that flight? Okay? All right, there's the explanation as to why. Okay, so again, just run responsibly and plan responsibly.
Scott, with the kidney thing, would drinking alcohol not do that anyways?
Yeah, so again, but wait.
The French proponent puts you out.
Oh, right, okay. So it depends what alcohol you take.
White wine is fine.
Oh, okay. The answer overall to your question, yes, yeah, it would have another added toxin for your liver to handle. It would be another chemical or toxin to process. Something like a beer is actually diuretic. I'm not saying it's good for you, use it, don't use it. I'm just saying different alcohols will have a different effect. But as a general rule, yes, it's another toxin to process and to filter. Don't do it if you're about to have a performance run that you're trying to have a PB. That's just silly.
So Scott, so runs where every lap you go down a beer.
I don't see Busamed sponsoring that one. Just saying.
So beer, yes, hard tack no.
Okay, right. Interesting one. So for all the guys out there, you're trying to maintain your testosterone levels actually drop in marathon runners. Don't stress too much. It drops to the lower limits of normal. So it's still normal. The rationale behind it is that evolutionary wise, we are not supposed to run these long distances. That's actually unfortunately a proven fact. But it's not that we can't do it, we just get some training toward it. But in an attempt to lean up, to become that peak long distance runner, you don't want to be carrying excess bulk on you, so you want to actually shed muscle and shed off stuff. So you don't want to have this big bulky guy who weighs 110 kgs. To be honest, that's why it's very impressive seeing our Springboks weighing 125 kgs running around a field for 80 minutes. It's actually remarkable because the science counteracts itself the whole time. If you want to peak that fitness, you can't carry that muscle around, and so they defy that, which is absolutely incredible. But long distance running actually drops your testosterone. But don't stress. I think if I remember correctly, the study said by 48 hours it normalizes again. So don't worry too much. So the guys cracking a sweat there. Yeah.
Cassie here. You might have read it as well in that analysis of that smoking increases it. Did you notice that?
Yes.
Interesting one. But then reduced to lower limits of normal.
Yes.
Normal is a person that's dying according to the medical system. It's not necessarily someone sitting in this room. So are we graded just against someone who's dying as normal?
It's an interesting question you ask. To my knowledge, the grading is not quite to someone who's dying, to normal people. The question is, have they done enough studies to find out what the average recreational runner's testosterone should be? And then again, what age group? The 20s to 30s? Is that? And then the second question is, what testosterone levels in females? A lot of data has not been done on females. That's unfortunately the truth. And a lot of data has been done on highly athletic young males, mostly out of the States, which is not the majority of runners. And it's certainly not the majority of long distance runners. So it's a good question that you lead towards. The benchmark that we measure against, is it a fair yardstick? Is it a fair measure? The answer is, well, the question is a very good one. It was an interesting thing, I thought, because it has popped up once or twice. We've heard some guys who've done some reading have come and said to me, listen, it drops my testosterone. The answer is yes, there's evidence to show that, but don't be worried. Okay.
Take up smoking and will help.
I didn't say that. All right. Just some quick touch on testosterone, ways to actually naturally boost your testosterone. So high intensity, short duration, like sprints. If you want to do like 200 to 300 meter quick sprints, but like a good sort of 85, 90% high intensity, boom, boom. That's a quick way. Resistance training, weightlifting, bodybuilding, and so on. Excuse me. Very important for females. Yes, it's important for males. It's very important for females. If you want to, and I'm slowly going on a tangent here, but if you want to boost female bone metabolism and strength now in your late 30s, 40s, 50s, even early 60s, for when you are 80, weightlifting of not massive, ridiculous weights, weightlifting that you strain muscle, you put muscle under static or into concentric load, weightlifting and building a little bit of muscle bulk for females, guys, please do it. It's really, really, really good. Because if you do that, then I'll be doing less osteoporotic work in years to come. Okay. Then, of course, all the usual stuff. And touching on your point there, on your point was excess alcohol, smoking, minimizing and managing stress, and all those other good things are naturally important. Right, where are we? Okay, so the big question on arthritis. I know we're still like, what the hell is the answer? Okay, so the answer to accelerated arthritis, yes or no? I really want to be talking it out, sorry. Okay, so I'm going to quote read it. Elite level long distance running is associated with a 3 to 7 times greater risk of knee arthritis compared to non-runners. Okay, so again, so elite level long distance running is associated with a 3 to 7 times greater risk of knee osteoarthritis compared to non-runners. That is, if you have a previous joint injury, it's a strong predictor. An elite level long distance running, a predictor of osteoarthritis. Now, what subset of our runners is that? It is the small subset. It's right at the higher levels of our running, not the majority of us. That's number one. Number two, if you have a previous underlying injury, we're only focusing on knees here, but if you have a previous underlying injury, it will impact the speeding up of that injury and the speeding up of the wear and tear. Okay, hang 5, everyone's gone, oh no. Wait. Okay, however, there is no relationship between joint space and narrowing, so it's one of the really important signs on x-rays. As the joint gets more worn out, the joint comes closer and closer together. And physical activity in recreational runners. There is strong evidence to support that statement. Okay. Physical activity is in fact protective against cartilage injury. There's really good evidence to support that. moderate recreational exercise has a decreased risk of osteoarthritis. Now, moderate recreational exercise, unfortunately, there's no standard definition. However, vast majority of runners doing 21s, 30s, occasional 42 will comfortably fall into that bracket. Okay. If you are pushing for a comrades every single year of your life, unfortunately, you fall more likely into this group. That can't be ignored, unfortunately. However, if you're doing the occasional comrades, and if you're doing majority of that marathon distance, and you're doing responsible running, you're not just ignoring an injury, you've got the responsible approach to running, you are not accelerating the wear and tear in your knees. Okay, obviously it goes without saying, proper technique, proper equipment, proper training, that's of course important. There are some studies actually proving that it may confer protective benefits to lower limb cartilage. Moderate, consistent running stimulates cartilage and enhances the structure and the function of the cartilage itself. So, do it. Okay, in conclusion, moderate intensity recreational running with proper technique does not increase acceleration in your osteoarthritic changes. Okay. It's a good thing. Well done, guys. Well done. Right, take our measures. I'll shut up soon. Number 1, run. Health benefits massively, overwhelmingly outweigh the risks and the side effects. Number 2, please run responsibly. I've harped on this a bit already, but include stretching pre and post running to avoid injury. I know it's a contentious point, different ways in one can stretch, but in general take-home message, stretch. At the start of the season, a rapid duration change, a rapid routine change, the correct preparation before events, do it in a responsible fashion. Chat to someone who's done that event before, learn how they've prepared for it, what they did right or wrong. You can usually learn something from every seasoned runner. So chat to them. Slow runs. Make sure that not every single one of your runs is a max exhaustion run. It's really not going to help you at all. Deliberately plan some slow runs. When you have a fast run, push hard for a hardcore moment, push hard, but then also take a break to normalize. Normalize your heart rate and your cardiac output. Number 3, keep your core strong. Our physio team is going to help us on some stretching today. Stretching, fantastic, good. However, there's plenty of YouTube videos and so forth out there about keeping core strong. From the age of about 42, don't ask me how I know that. Anyway, from the age of about 42 onwards, your core starts to rapidly decline. And depending on what work you do, if you're sitting doing computer programming or computer work all the time, you're not using your core. It's unfortunately the reality of life. Keep your core as strong as possible. YouTube, I know all of us jump into the black hole of YouTube and Instagram at night before we fall asleep. It's a terrible sleep habit, but we all do it. Spend 5 minutes in looking at these various exercise routines and try and incorporate some of them. Okay.
Just looking at them count.
Oh, definitely. Education is step 1. Definitely counts. Mix up your routine. So throw in some different sports. As I mentioned, on our weightlifting, guys, really don't underestimate it. Throw in a bit of weights. Throw in a different bit of sports. Some things like, obviously, so cycling is lovely for the lack of impact. Swimming is great. Don't stress about my comment on the very long distance swimmers. They're going to also have normal hearts, don't stress. Otherwise, mix it all up. High intensity training sessions, really great stuff. And it's a different form, or it's a different recruitment of muscles that you do with stock standard running. Recruit other muscles to maintain core stability, balance, coordination, gait, etc. Last but not least, plan some rest days. There are some things called active rest days, and that's a really cool day to plan another sport. But still, plan some rest days. I think we're there. Oh, so just in case, don't trust me, but I do have evidence of all the various references. I promise you, these are not my comments, they come from proper scientists. Okay. Thanks very much.
Oh, thank you very much. Before we cross over to the stretching, we've got some questions.
Sorry.
No, I just want to ask about osteoporosis and long distance running. Just to elaborate a bit on that. Like, what kind of risks long term?
So probably the most common danger sign is running through an injury, neglecting. I've got this knee. Just keep hampers on, and you just say, oh, I'll soldier through it. And you can probably run a couple of years with some sort of meniscal tear. where you know that your knee's going to flare up after your run, but you'll just take a medication. And you'll get through that 21K okay, but you do that for 3 or 4 years, and you're taking load unnecessarily. Now, that person comes for a knee scope at some point, and you realize that meniscus is now torn beyond repair, or that section is torn beyond repair. So now instead of being able to repair it, you have to cut it out, or cut that section of the meniscus out. That then subsequently accelerates your wear and tear significantly. So, running through an injury, ignoring an injury, please don't do that. Secondly, if you've got elements of osteochondral defects, so we've got the cartilage surface, and that starts to flap off and starts to come loose and break up, you often have a lot of pain, a lot of symptoms, but that flares up and it settles for a bit, and flares up and it settles for a bit. If you did something about it earlier on, you can often prevent rapid deterioration in subsequent years.
Is this osteoporosis or osteoporosis?
Oh, sorry, I'm digressing. Sorry, it's osteoporosis, okay.
Yeah.
With running?
Yeah, well, along your risk, because like I've been diagnosed as early onset osteopenia, let's say. And yeah, I just want to know long term my risks.
The answer is, the actual medical answer is, if you are a rat, there's massive evidence to prove that it's really can be accelerating your bone strength.
Okay.
There's a lot of anecdotal and small studies that show in humans it does work, but a massive study proved that it wasn't scientifically provable, if that makes any sense. However, there is something called Wolff's law, and that is when you mechanically load the bone and apply a force through the bone naturally strengthens in the plane of force that's applied. That's proper science.
So you can reverse, like you can actually strengthen your bone density.
You can, you're correct.
At like I'm 43, sorry. So
the answer is yes. So according to pure physiology, yes. If you load that bone, it will get stronger and stronger in its direction of force. So if we are upright creatures, we're not, like if you lie down in bed for too long, it's actually bad for you. We are creatures that are supposed to counter gravity, and we're upright creatures. If you continuously loading that bone, it strengthens up. Again, the caveat is doing it responsibly. If you have I'm going to just pick a random number. If you are this age, please don't be offended. If you are a 68-year-old female with strong curvature already, I mean, we've all got folks that might be in their 80s already, and when they were 65, they were kind of standing straight. Now they're 83, they really are like this. That's a sign of vertebral collapse. That's undeniable. That's happening.
So it's not going to increase too much for long distance running.
In a case like that, there's a relative.
I had stress fracture in my pelvis from too much running, but not a fragility fracture.
Okay. No, that's a very.
Sounds like you know the answer already.
So I just went because I was told not to run further than 10 Ks ever again, which I didn't listen to. I changed my doctor.
Good. And that so unfortunate. Well, the comment they made there was not accurate.
Okay.
You required rest, adequate nutrition, and stopping smoking if you were good. In order to
drink.
It's empty. In order for you to heal that fracture. But just because you continue running doesn't mean you were absolutely going to get another one. No, that's not the case. I'm glad you chose a different one.
So I've got a question on osteoarthritis.
Yes.
Because I'm just sucking it up because there's really no way around it. My daughter said to me, well, if you want to run, stop loading, just suck it up. So that's what I do now. So I've had 2 knee scopes.
Okay.
I know it's osteoarthritis. And I want to know, why can't I have a patellofemoral replacement and continue running if that's where the problem sits?
The answer is you absolutely can. The answer is you absolutely can. However, you misunderstand that if you do that. So we've got a guy, it's a knee replacement I did on him about 3 or 4 years ago. He's run a second Comrades now. Now I've told him modern medicine has to counsel him to say, don't do that. It's strongly discouraged to do that. For the reason that he's going to probably wear that out sooner than later. And I say wear it out, the biomechanics around the rest of the knee is going to be really overworked, and he runs the risk of unsettling his knee, in a simple explanation. The trouble comes now that if he needs a revision, and any revision surgery to a major joint prosthesis, every time we revise that knee again, we lose a segment of bone, we lose a bit of bone, it's a new time that we re-enter the joint. All of this runs risk for now poorer success in the long term, higher chance of subsequent complications like infection, like dislocations, like periprosthetic fractures. And then the type of implant that we use as a revision type of surgery is often a bit more constrained, meaning It offers a less natural way for the knee to cycle. I'm again talking about the knee now. For the knee to cycle, it's a bit more unnatural. It feels a bit more unsettled in the knee. It's a general and overall statement. If you revise once, you could probably get away with it absolutely fine. But if you revise into the third or fourth or fifth time now, and depending if you've got a unique type of fracture where you've lost bone volume, the implants that you use are now becoming quite limited. And that's probably the greater rationale behind advising don't run those mega long distances. However, he's run 2 comrades and a multitude of other races, and he's absolutely fine. So secretively, I'm kind of going, keep going. So I'm just dying to see how far you can go.
So my theory is that if you're looking at quality of life, if running is where I get my kick from,
Yes.
I don't really care what my knees are like at 80. You know, I'd rather have my knees like really like an arm running.
Yeah.
And not worry about when I'm 80, because maybe I don't even get to 80, and then at like 50 I didn't run because I was worried at 80 my knees are going to be sore. You know, so
I think the biggest thing is be educated. This is the current situation that you're in now. These are the options, and this is the potential risk, not the guaranteed risk, the potential risk. And if you, in your mind, in your circumstances, get such great joy out of running, but you understand the potential risk and you're willing to still take that on, run with pleasure, run with blessing. But in 20 years' time, if you go, oh, I need another revision, and that wasn't as great as my first one, and if it's a bridge you're willing to cross 20 years down the line, then that's fine. That's fine. At the same token, you can have a phenomenal knee replacement now, and you could fall 3 years' time and have a terrible periprosthetic fracture, and then you're still going to be cycling along. So it's a good question. How long do you delay your current quality of life? That's each individual. But I think the safe summary to your question is that don't put your enjoyment on hold, and just because you've had a joint replaced, don't think that's it. I can't. You can very, very confidently do 10s and 21s with no problem. Ultra marathons and comrades, the question is it necessary to do that long? Because you can still be part of the weekend and part of the event and part of the club.
he has
Trying to-
lived here long enough.
Yes. So does that in a roundabout way answer your question?
I'm a little bit tired of being told there's nothing that can be done about that. I don't need that negativity in my life. I need someone.
Need a new doctor.
Yeah, take my doctor.
You met your doctor. Yes, your knee replacement specialist.
Were you not told to only tell the runners tonight what they want to hear in any case?
Well, sorry, Casey. No. The honest truth is that there's a lot of data that supports running is good for you. Do it responsibly. That's the only
I
caveat.
love you. It's like a
So I'll give it back to you. Yeah, exactly. Right.
Thank you. Thanks for the
so
answer.
no, you can have a replacement and you can still run. Simple as that, Joe.
Sorry, another question. So you said you had a little daughter.
Yes.
When she gets to the age of 18, 20 years old, and she wants to do ultra endurance running, would you say, sure, go ahead, or would you say, hang on, wait a bit?
Yeah. Why should you wait?
I'm asking you the question.
No, but you bang on the money. The answer is at 18, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Ultra high endurance running, absolutely out of the question. When she's 30, go for it. Fine.
So did you say 30?
Yes.
That's because
Unfortunately, that is in fact proven. That ultra, so marathons and above.
So anything from 40, okay, 30, 35?
Yeah, run. But my caveat, run responsibly. As
If you build up to your
listen, I know you Oaks. You have won the bloody. You Oaks have got to stop, eh? Listen, well done, you Oaks ran like machines. You guys clearly, no, I'm not joking. You guys have a genuine skill set, and obviously you're training hard, and you have a phenomenal running career ahead of yourselves. Your mom's got to go. Sorry, your mom's got to.
She is wife.
Okay. No. She raises a very good point. The average person peaks with the ability to handle the physical toll of running from about 30 onwards. listen, you can run properly at 28, it's fine. Having said that, there are a number of people, as in like thousands of people, who started running very, very early on and ran hard, all in their early 20s and are fine. So unfortunately, there are a lot of cases that defy that. But as a general rule, if you really run too hard in your 20s, it can hurt you a bit. So hit your 21s, go for it, no problem, you know. Do the occasional marathon. Not every month is a marathon. But then like the comrades and the big events, the data does show from 30 onwards, better.
So if you just threw a comrades in there at the age of 20, just as a one-off, it should be okay.
As a one-off.
I guess as a one-off.
So
these your kids? Exactly. The answer to your question, a one-off 90k, is probably going to be okay. The trouble is that you know that Comrades event is incredible, but it's nothing compared to the amount of training required. So correct my figures here, the 1,000 Ks, the 2,000 Ks you're going to do, 2,000, hey?
So as long as there's strength training and stretching and all of that that goes with it.
Yes. Run responsibly as you can. Yes, you've got to incorporate some long distance runs there, but try and just be a bit responsible, not too many ultra long distance training events for the ultra long run. Incorporate a lot more 21s than 56s in your training. But obviously you're going to have to chat to the guys who've done it a lot and see what's the bare minimum required for the long runs, for the training for the long run. If that makes sense. Okay.
Thank you very much.
I don't know if that actually answers your question, but... Sorry, yes.
So a quick question. For someone that's doing a lot of ultra distance, is there worthwhile evidence to show that you should be doing some sort of bone supplementation like osteo-ease or something like that? What benefits or what supplements would be beneficial for that?
So it's a great question. I haven't gone deep down that rabbit hole, and it's an interesting area to look at because the quality of the studies that are out there vary a lot. You can get some professional nutritionists' opinions, like some prof's opinion, versus a study of 10,000 runners over a 10-year period, and it's real good data, you know. So just be cautious on the various opinions that get published in the form of Instagram posts and stuff like that, because there's loads of those out there. Where you are able to scrutinize the references that I was putting up, for example, look for the real studies, like big numbers, long study periods. But in a quick answer to your question, of greater value is a better balanced diet than an individual supplement, overwhelmingly. So chondroitin sulfate is the main key component, and things like that are the main key components in osteo-ease and things like that. That's a big building block for cartilage of major joints. Now, we take it, you're never going to rebuild cartilage to type 1 collagen fibers. You form a scarred type 2 and even type 3 collagen fiber as like a scarring plug and so forth, as a general rule. Those ones will scar up, those ones will heal, but taking chondroitin sulfate, so osteo-ease specifically, doesn't directly translate to a greater recovery of scarring up cartilage. What it does do, and this is proven data, it does have an anti-inflammatory component, it does have a pain relieving component, so there is benefit to using it, and it's typically with the type or the grade 1, stage 1 arthritis, and even some of the stage 2 arthritis patients. Once you've worn out your knee, which I dare to say after you've had 2 scopes, you're probably a stage 3 and maybe even a stage 4.
I don't like that negativity. Did you?
Based on having 2 scopes, it's probably a safe statement. Osteo-ease, chondroitin sulfate, there's other ones, there's a number of them on the market. Just walk down the Dischem queues and you'll see them all there. You're probably going to have less benefit. There's also different types of medications we're going to inject inside the knee, not just the cortisone steroids, for example.
Actually had them, yeah.
And how long did you benefit from them?
Good couple of months. I've had it twice now.
About 6 months or so?
Yes, at least.
Right, but that's fantastic. That's a good result. So maybe I retract my statement. Maybe you're grade 3. Either way, it's a finite period, isn't it?
It is.
So going back to especially that ultra long distance running, I mean that's a huge toll on your body. A proper balanced diet. Don't go crazy on like I only do this and I exclude all of that group in my.
a real balanced diet is probably the single most important thing you can do. As a general rule, you don't go from an average running Joe to an ultra distance athlete on multiple events in a short space of time. You're usually quite a seasoned athlete that gets there. I say usually. And also, please, not you guys. Not yet. Okay. And so you're the right age, you're the right shape and frame to be of that, of that elite athlete group. So you've responsibly gotten there. Nutrition, obviously sleeping. Don't do stupid things like smoking and try and be at that elite level. It just doesn't work. The props there on the rugby field with us playing medical rugby back in the day. Half time they'd get their orange and a smoke. You're like, how? How do you do that? Obviously that's just been silly, right? But a balanced diet. That's a simple answer. Thank you. Okay. Cool.
So, there's lots of talk about like lactic acid and how to get rid of it after your runs.
Yes.
So if I'm thinking about a long run or a race, and you stretch, and then you have a nice hot shower, and you go get in bed.
Okay.
Like, what is the, more from the side of joints, what is the correct thing to do? Because I kind of feel, just thinking about it, that doing the complete opposites cannot be good. But if I'm out and I'm gardening and I'm doing things, I end up more sore. So what do we do afterwards?
So first of all, and probably going back to your question you mentioned now, I must make the statement, I'm not a nutritionist.
Yeah.
My specialty doesn't go into that realm. There's some interesting stuff coming out about creatine post-run, creatine build-up pre-run, between 3 and 5 grams, as little as 3 and 5 grams daily, has accelerated the clearance of post-run metabolites, the predominantly known one being lactic acid. However, we are very well designed, and lactic acid is incredibly well metabolized and utilized and recycled. I have a BSc in biochemistry before I studied medicine, which I remember nothing of, except we used the name lactic acid lots and lots of times. But what I do remember, and this is a fact, different organs in our body can use lactic acid as a primary fuel source and recycle it quickly. So yes, it undeniably sits in our musculature, in our liver and so forth, and it gets recycled, whether you do something or nothing. If you found on an individual level that gardening, or I don't know if it's a particular type of gardening you do, if you're bending over, tending something, or if you're mowing the lawn or whatever, maybe that's just you. But as a general rule, your body's going to process it well, especially if you haven't got any sort of underlying liver disease and other issues like that. You're going to clean that up pretty quickly. If you're talking about the ultra elite marathon runners, and then not necessarily marathon runners, but the multi-stage events where you're going 5 days covering marathon distances, and that's insane. Definitely there you want to try and optimize the clearance of that as much as you can. Again, basic approach, adequate hydration. Don't get to a point where you've now damaged your kidney so hard on day 2 or day 3, and now things you're in trouble, you know. But going back to clearance, if there's a particular thing that I am aware of that rapidly clears lactic acid, I don't know if I'd be able to say anything more than basic nutrition and certainly hydration. As an intern in the Maritzburg complex, and some of the guys from Durban, they would always staff the tents at the Comrades events each year. And the 2 years that I was involved with that, there were some real high-profile, common household names that would come in for their drip after the run. They felt like rock stars. They weren't exhausted. Very senior guys that had been running many, many Comrades would come in feeling great, not breaking records, haven't pushed themselves as hard as they probably could have, but they said, my deal is I get it. It's just a bag of fluid after every event. Not that one needs to all run up to go get bags of fluid, but taking home the message that hydration, just really pack in the water there, just flush things out, keep it all nice and hydrated. Probably the single biggest thing that the average runner can do. I wouldn't start saying load this and load that, and that you probably run the risk of actually taking on wrong things. Careful with the groups and the energy things. They've got their place. Never try something for the first time on race day. Never, never, never. But if you find something that works for you and it eases up a bit of a muscle cramp on day 2 or 3, by all means. But experiment before your event. Okay.
I think I'm just more worried about your joints going from like such extremes for such a long period of time to going home and doing nothing.
So
it's
you're like
almost
joints
that,
or muscle?
more the joints thing, because like lactic acid, you know it's there, you know you're going to get stiff, it's just part of it. But I'm more worried about the effect of joints going from excessive use to nothing for a day, or excessive use to like walking it off and trying to be active for a day, like which is the better.
So I've got a number of talks on running and so forth, and some that go real in depth into some proper. It's actually boring, but it's interesting. Talking specifically about marathon runners, where they took synovial biopsies. They took biopsies from the joint immediately after the run. Sorry, pre-run, immediately after the run, 24 hours after the run, and 48 hours after the run. In regular recreational runners, they found the inflammatory markers of your average recreational runner did not spike significantly in that whole period. That's the first thing. The secondly, comparing to the non-running group, if a non-runner ran sort of 10Ks or whatever, there was a notable spike in inflammatory markers. Taking a marathon runner, testing them over the same period, they had absolutely no change, which I thought was very, very odd. If you have a 21 runner, just a regular 21 kilometer runner, they got minimal to no change. You expect that increased mileage, but like, surely the marathon runners would see something. No difference. Excess of a marathon runner had a notable spike, but by 48 hours had mostly normalized. So again, put yourself into one of those groups. If you are the 21K confident runner, the answer is no. You're not doing any significant damage. If you're the marathon runner, trust the data as you will. And if you're an ultra high runner, yes, there's some gentle spike in inflammatory markers taken from within the joint itself, but it normalizes within a short space of time. Again, caveat being that you're not running through an existing injury. Okay. Does that answer your question? Run. Yeah. Yes, right. Exactly.
Thank you very much, everybody. No, cool. Very, very interesting. But I've seen Alex sitting here stretching, so
yeah, ready to go. Brilliant.
Can we start? You want to start up here? You want to take us out?
100%. No, pleasure.
Thanks for coming out, guys. You can see some guys stretching in the back there, getting ready. Good stuff. You
want to just make them stand and breathe and then...
Yeah.
Guys, you want to stand, shake your legs, and then pay attention, please.
This will be a quick one. Don't worry.
Sorry.
Stretch your thing.
Oh, we're starting stretching.
Oh, yeah, just not just yet. Okay, cool. Let's take seats. Alright, this will be a nice quick talk, and then we're going to go outside just now, do some nice stretches, so some good warm-ups, and then we'll have, I think there's prize going on.
Massive prizes, please don't go away.
Sorry. So my name's Alex. I'm from CW Physiotherapist. Here with my colleague Jamian. We're going to be presenting on static versus dynamic stretching. I know it's quite a hot topic nowadays of which one's better, should you be doing it before you're running and that kind of thing. Before we go to the next slide, can anyone tell me what static or dynamic stretching is, or what the difference is between it? Guys, please calm down. Okay, so we can go to the next one. So essentially, when it comes to dynamic stretches, it's trying to move your muscles through their full range of motion without having an end range hold, right? Compared to static stretching, which is virtually the opposite, is you're taking a muscle right to the end range and trying to hold it for about 15 to 60 seconds at a time. And then going to the next one. So looking at general stretching, there has been some good evidence showing that with static stretching, it shows a decrease in power and strength, right? Which is something obviously you don't want to have before you go for a run. But with runners specifically, that's not really something that should concern people with their endurance kind of sports. Okay, so there was a really cool study that came out that kind of measured static versus dynamic stretching with endurance runners. And it kind of showed that there was no difference between static or endurance, static or dynamic stretching with the endurance type of running that they're doing compared to isolated strength testing. Okay, go to the next slide. So there are great benefits to doing both before a run. So it helps to improve running economy. It gets you going through those motions nicely before the run, so that way you're actually ready for the motions. Something that was really interesting with that previous study as well is it showed that there was a decreased rate of perceived rates of exertion as well. So you felt better when you ran. It didn't feel like you were working as hard if you stretched before you run, doing static or dynamic stretching, right? And again, I did just mention there that with static stretching, it did have that decrease in strength and power deficit, but again with runners, that doesn't matter too much for them. With dynamic stretching though, it did also help to increase blood flow to the muscles specifically, which is obviously something you really want to do before you go on your runs. You want to try and warm them up, essentially. And another thing that they did touch on as well in some literature is with the psychological prep you have before you go on a run, before you engage with a good race, is trying to go through those motions nicely, set you up nicely to go into those races. Sorry. Okay, and then next slide. So in conclusion, you want to try and do a bit of a 3 to 5 minute run, warm up, before your race. This is going very well. So we're going to step outside now and try and go through some good examples of dynamic stretches that my colleague is going to show you much more smoothly than I think I spoke about now.
Just read that bottom line. That's the middle line, please. That's
dynamic stretching prior to the event is better than, well, it would be better than static, but static afterwards will help you feel better as well. So it's doing both. Great.
Peer pressure is horrible.
Everyone's key to go to stretch now. Let's go.
Come on.
Get them before they get
Do what you're good at.
Exactly right.
I was 17 my whole life. Stu, should we offer an entry to... Well, that's not the
And how long was your introduction? How long was your introduction to it?
You got to pump it up, don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up, don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up, don't you know.
Feeling, alright? Okay, let's go. One off. Single leg, legs up, up, up. Good. Let's go.
It's like the break dancer chick in the Olympics.
Can you change the video?
Left leg, square. Okay, let's get some leg swings. Good. Get those hamstrings nice and warm. Other side, swing. Swing. Okay, let's line up this side. Come in, come in, come in. Line up here, line up here. We're gonna do some running. So first one, we call it the chicken chase. Okay? We're just gonna go and chase the chicken. Chase the chicken. Here we go. Chase the chickens. We grew up on a farm. Yeah. have to be a bit quicker. Good, keep it going. Okay, turning around, we're going to do some side shuffle. So we're going to go, I'm going to go through you guys. Here we go.
Wow.
There you go. Okay, next one, I kind of call it the hopscotch one. Okay, so tiny and you give a small jump. Okay, another way, let's do one more round. 1, 2, 3, up.
What's happened to our DJ?
There you go.
Yeah.
Let's go, DJ. Yeah, I think that's okay. Sorry for the rain, but I think that's enough for now, hey?
Hey, should we go for a run?
Yeah, let's go. Good. Quick 3 minutes. I was meant to go run there tonight, but here we are.
Hey?
The blood is flowing now.
What a good
That's not one of these.
Actually, just like 42.
Yeah, I don't know where these
Just standing there.
Right, so I see Scott's busy outside getting a diagnosis or something. So we're going to carry on. First of all, thanks very much everybody for coming. We have got a couple of giveaways and hampers and things for everybody. Seeing as Scott's busy, Alex, if you come up and thank you very much for giving us some insights into dynamic and static stretching.
Thanks for having me.
If you wouldn't mind coming up and accepting something on our behalf. Thank you very much indeed. Much appreciated. Thank you. Thank you.
1 second. So the UHTM team's quite dynamic. We've decided to offer you a 42-kilometer trail run on the 7th of December if you're available.
Oh, I'm out of town. I sadly am out of town. But please, when is the next 42? And let me prepare for it. I'd love to join you guys. I really would.
Fair enough. We'll keep you posted.
Please, but thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Right. First of all,
You've lost it. Next year, good luck.
But guys, nonetheless, thank you genuinely. I mean, I sadly am out of town. I moved my family down that weekend.
Fair enough.
So, but
welcome to Durban.
Thank you. It's a huge invitation, and I'm sad to turn it down, but I'm very grateful. Thank you guys.
Pleasure.
Well, first of all, thanks very much to Roxy from Busamed. We've got some bottles that we're going to hand out. Thank you very much for bringing these along. I'm going to hand them to the people in the front so we can just pass them back. That's okay?
Everybody gets a
Everybody
bottle.
gets
Thank you so much.
Good.
Alright guys, who's ready to win some prizes? Me! Well, you have to work for it, come on. Okay, we've got a few questions. Thank you. Okay, so the first beautiful hamper that Craig is going to hold for me, right?
It's usually the other way around.
And pass.
And Pat, thank you very much for this beautiful hamper. The question to win this beauty is who, and I'm going to go by whose hand is up first, who can name the 7 trail partners that we have partnered with for UHTM? You can say the most. Okay, who can name as many as you can?
Go on.
No,
Come on. She's chatting earlier.
Make up stuff. Gilnockie, Run Collective.
Okay, no, let me specify. So, good answer. Really good. Yes. Thank you, Run Collective and Gilnockie.
Our sponsors.
It is our trail partners, so it is the conservancies that we partner with.
Oh, okay, then
Everton Conservancy, Rail Trail, Kranskloof, Springside. Yeah, 4. I know 4.
Okay, who can top that?
Anyone more?
Camp Orchard, Everton.
I think he has said
Everton.
that.
He didn't say Everton, I said.
All right, well, that is excellent effort. Well Alright, by way again of first hand up, second question. Get your arms in, guys, come on. Okay. What was the question? Oh, yes, thank you. Right, so, how many members are there in the UHTM organizer team? Yes. 5. Can you name them?
1, 2, 3, 4, Braden. Raj, Craig, Marissa, I don't know, and Braden.
That's a Stuart. Sorry,
Yeah, it is.
Sorry, Stuart, I mean,
Won't forget now.
Okay. All right. What was the question again? Please help me go out. The other one. What is?
I don't know. How long is the 42?
Wait, the organizers are just chatting. Hold on. I don't even know that. Okay, first hand up. Who won the men's, help me out, 42 kilometer? I didn't say the year. Can you hold on, please? On both occasions. In 2022. Okay, yes, that hand there. It's Lloyd, isn't it?
Last year. No, it was last year.
Last year 2023, yes, because we are in 2024. That is an excellent effort. Do you know who did it 2022? Please tell me. Come on, you said it.
Was it not Grant?
No, no, he won the...
Can I tell you what club he runs for?
You've seen the video, have you?
Runs for Nedbank.
Oh, yes.
Won Ultra Trail Cape Town a few years ago.
Excellent runner. Like anybody.
First name Eric.
You didn't know.
Another question.
How many entries have we got in the wall?
Yes, that's it. Okay, first hand up. Who was the first title sponsor of the Upper Highway Trail Marathon in 2022? Yes! Bye, and now we've got a last amazing prize that you want to win.
Yeah, this is a nice prize from Run Collective.
Okay, guys. Yeah, just a big thank you for all of you coming. Again, like Craig said, when you organize these events, you actually have no clue how many people are going to show up. So we set up chairs, and if 5 people showed up, we were just going to be like quite dismal and pack up. But thank you for all for showing. So I've got a question. Basically, in here is just a Run Collective prize. It's got our socks, it's got our cap, it's got a shirt. Question's actually quite simple. I couldn't think of a complicated one. So again, first hand, what date did we open up the new shop location?
Wow.
So
Sure.
hand there.
Okay, man, you know. 1st of May.
1st of May, what year?
2024.
That's correct.
Thanks everybody.
Yep. The entire video is going to be up on YouTube, so it was a live streaming event. So
if you want to watch it again, it's there.
Pick up the tips again.
Thank you, Stuart.
And if anyone wanted to be here and they couldn't make it, you can let them know about the video. They can watch the video.
Guys, thank you so much for everybody coming out. We really appreciate it. Just a show of hands, who will be at UHTM this year? Either the 6th or the 7th? So the majority, why am I not seeing hands going up that side? I'm sure. Thank you guys, really appreciate it. If you are not running and you want to come and volunteer for your HTMs, please will you go onto the website and just sign up as a volunteer, and then our lovely Grant will be in contact with you. We need all the hands we can get to make this a success, as we do every year. So thank you very much. Have a good night, guys.